To make a meatless sauce, the first thing you're going to need is 1 16-ounce can of crushed tomatoes.
29-ounce can, I think.
Okay. 28-ounce can of tomatoes. And then you're going to need how much are these?
Like 15.
15-ounce can, 2 of those of tomato sauce. And you're going to need 4 6-ounce cans of tomato paste. Then you're going to use about a cup to cup and a half chopped onion, about a tablespoon of minced chopped garlic. You're going to need about a couple of tablespoons of good olive oil to saute your onions and your garlic in. You're going to need some sugar. I would say probably 3 or 4 tablespoons, but really you just have to taste it. And you're going to need salt. And usually it's about a teaspoon of salt, something like that. Okay, the meatless sauce is you're going to pour in your olive oil. I'm going to say about a good couple of tablespoons. What you want to do is just cover the bottom of your pan. Not a whole bunch. I mean, you don't want a cup. You want just enough to be able to saute your onions in there.
Kind of over medium heat, right?
Yeah, over a medium heat. You can turn it up a little bit until they start kind of browning good, and then turn it down. So there you go. You got just a slight sizzle going, which is what you want. And you want to make sure you stand here and stir this because they will burn up on you with a quickness. Alrighty, it has been about 4 minutes and we have sauteed our onions until they're about half translucent. And that was at a high heat. Now I'm going to turn this heat down just a little bit to about medium. And now I'm going to add my garlic. And I'm going to put about a tablespoon, good size tablespoon of garlic. If you're not a fan of garlic, don't add as much. You don't have to add any. You could do this really with just onion. But I kind of like garlic. You don't want to let this go too long now because garlic will burn. We just want to brown this until our onions are translucent and the garlic is lightly browned and cooked. You don't want raw garlic, but you don't want it cooked black either. And that is through browning.
How long does that normally take? Is that getting close, or does it take a minute or two?
I would leave it at about 2 minutes, I think, to see. It's not quite, like I said, you don't want raw garlic. Because you get a piece of raw garlic, people might not like you. So I would say leave this about 2 minutes. And then we are going to add our, see how it's getting nice and translucent now? And of course you want to keep stirring it because if you leave it sit still it might burn on you. Yeah. It's getting there. Little bits are browning in there. See how everything's looking? Your onions is translucent. Your little garlic bits are brown. Now, we are going to start adding our paste. Now, I always add the paste first because it is the thickest in consistency. So, it takes a little bit to get that heated up, to get it kind of mixed in with your onions. It takes a second to get it out of your pan. And if my mother-in-law was here, she would scrape every last little speck out of this pan, out of all of them. Because back in the old days, they didn't waste nothing. Alright, now we have got all 4 cans of tomato paste in here, and we're going to just incorporate it with our little bit of olive oil, our onions, our garlic. Mix that around really good till it starts loosening up. And then we are going to add our tomato paste. We've got 2 cans of the paste.
Sauce.
Sauce, sorry. We're going to get our sauce incorporated in there. Real quick, and you kind of have to stir this because it's going to start popping out on you. And you don't really want to turn it down yet because we are fixing to add our tomatoes, our can of tomatoes. And that's the large 28-ounce can of tomatoes. We are going to incorporate that now.
Crushed, just regular crushed tomatoes,
Crushed,
right?
regular tomatoes. Just tomatoes. No seasoning or nothing. Alright, we're going to get those in there. And now we need a can of water. So we're going to put that in there. Alright. Big can of water here. We're probably going to need another can for this size, for this amount of sauce, because you want it nice and loose. And maybe even 2 more cans. We'll see. This is really kind of an eyeball thing. Let's do 1/2 can. I think we'll have it, because you want to leave a little room to add your meatballs. So let's do 1 more 1/2 a can. You want it thin enough to where it's going to give it time to cook down. But you don't want it so thin that you don't have room for your meatballs. Yeah, that looks good. Now, we are going to turn the heat down because we want that to simmer low and slow. And we are going to add our salt. And I would say this is, do you want me to do it with your spoon?
No, do it with your hand.
My mother-in-law did it with her hand. About that much. The palm of your hand. I would say that's probably a tablespoon, maybe tablespoon and a half. She just dumped it in like that. And then we're going to add our sugar. And the sugar, I am going to say probably, maybe we'll do 3 tablespoons and see how that does. Because basically this is a taste thing. And that's just all there is to it. You just kind of have to. The problem with using paste is it makes your sauce nice and rich, but it is bitter. So whenever you have paste and sauce and tomatoes, that was how much?
It looked like about 4, yeah.
4 tablespoons. And all the sugar is for is to take the bitterness out of that sauce. You don't want it sweet, you just don't want it bitter. And the best way I know to tell that is to stand here and taste it. If it's still a little bitter, then I add a little more sugar. And if it tastes good, you might need a little more salt. way to do that is just take a little bit. Good. Think that's got it. If anybody's got a cold, don't make sauce that day.
All right, and then it's on to the meatballs, right?
Yep. Now you just need to get your meatballs made up and fried browned and add them to your sauce. Want to taste some?
No, I'm good. I think I got you.
Okay.
I can see. I would have made it too thick, so I can tell the consistency is a little more loose.
Yeah,
what I
you
thought
want
it
it
would be.
loose to start with. And I may add, after we get our meatballs in, I may add a little more water. Because you want them, as it cooks, that water is going to evaporate. That's why at the end, you're going to have that nice thick sauce, because that water is going to evaporate out of it. But for right now, you want it nice and thin so that you can have it cook all day. Because, you know, if it's too thick to start with, you aren't going to get that nice flavor as it simmers all day long. All right, this is our meatballs. And what we have here is 2 pounds of good hamburger meat, less fat. We have 2 eggs, slightly beaten, a cup of onions, chopped, minced fine, not terrible minced, but you know, small. And this is about 1/3 of a cup of dried parsley. We've got about 4 pieces of day-old bread. We've got some black pepper and some salt. First thing we're going to do is dump our onions in, and see, that's about a good amount. You don't want to taste nothing but onions, but you want it to give it a good flavor.
And that hamburger was $85.15 is what I bought.
Okay, and here is our parsley. This is about 1/3 of a cup of parsley. If you aren't crazy about parsley, add a little, leave it out, add some. Some people like oregano. Now we are going to just sprinkle some salt and pepper over this whole thing, just to taste. And we're going to do some pepper, a little bit of that to taste. And then we are going to add our eggs.
2 eggs, right?
2 eggs, slightly beaten. Now we're going to take our bread. We're going to put it in our hand like this. And this is how my mother-in-law did it. We're just going to run some plain old water under the sink. Just like that. Get it nice and choppy wet. And then we're going to squeeze out the water. Don't ask me why. This is how she did it. This is our binder. You're going to get it nice and squeezed out. And then you're going to come over here and you're going to just break it up. Just like this. Into little bitty pieces. And you're going to dump this on the hamburger meat. This just kind of helps bind everything together so that when we brown them, hopefully they won't fall apart. But they may. That's okay. Alright, now the best way to mix this up is stick your hands in and start squishing that stuff all around just like this. Just going to incorporate all that stuff together. Just like that. If you feel like it's a little too moist, you can add a little bit more bread. If you feel like it's too dry, you can add another egg. I think this is about right. Yeah, see how it's kind of, when you pack it together, how it kind of stays? That's really all you're looking for. You just want it well mixed, just like that. And you want it to stick together. That's what you're after. This is what you're looking for. It's almost like making dough. That's about the consistency that you're after. Like a bread dough. because when you make your balls, you want them to stay together. So, the best way to make your meatball, my mother-in-law said, you kind of shape it to your hand. Just add a little bit more like that. And my mother-in-law liked a big, good-sized meatball. She fed kind of good-sized people. So there you go. That's our meatball. You just start rolling them up. When you get them all rolled and about the same size, because you're going to brown them, so you want them all to kind of brown evenly, about the same amount of time. You just kind of slap them together like that. Lay them on a piece of parchment paper or tin foil, saran wrap, doesn't matter. There you go.
So I'm curious to see how much 2 pounds of
It'll make a few. Because when you start eating these, you really can't eat more than one. At least I can't. I usually can only eat about a half of one. Because you're going to have spaghetti and sauce to go with it. So if you eat a whole meatball, you're going to be full. That fed up my family. And usually had some left over for sandwiches. Just touch more on that one. And that's how I measure it, son. Like that, with your hand. See that?
Yep.
There you go. You may end up with, it's not an exact science. You might have one that comes out a little small, one that comes out a little bit bigger, but that's years of practice is all I can tell you.
6 so far. Looks like we're going to get 8 out of 2 pounds, a little over 2 pounds of 85-15.
If you have a big onion on the outside like that, just kind of pick it out. That's what'll make it fall apart.
Okay.
If it's too big, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, there you go. This one may be no, that's about right. Yep. Like I said, years of practice. There you go. Now you might want to turn your heat on. We're going to use just plain old vegetable oil to fry these in. You could use good olive oil if you want to spend the money. But my mother-in-law said that was a waste because you're just going to fry them. And that's it. That's our meatballs.
All right, so what do you got going on here, Mom?
Our sauce is just going, it's got like a gentle rolling, very slight. You just want that simmering gently. Not real fast. You don't want it popping out, going crazy yet. We've got our vegetable oil in our frying pan heating up.
And that was, I don't know, that looked like about a good cup or more of vegetable oil, just kind of up the side there a little.
Up the side, and now we're going to just go ahead.
Is that hot enough to do yet?
It is. I mean, you don't want it so hot that when you go to put your meatballs in, you set your hand on fire. So you just kind of want to get them down in there like this. Okay, and you want to gently lower them into your oil. Just like that. And you want to leave enough room between them so that you can get your spoons in there to turn them. I like using 2 big spoons because I don't want to tear them up. And it's real easy to tear them up. I don't like tongs for that very reason. And I just put them just like that. Give yourself enough room there. And when these start browning, you're going to hear that bad boy start sizzling, and then we're just going to brown them on all 4 sides.
We're just going to do a couple of batches of those?
Yeah. Actually, you've got 2 extra.
We don't want to crowd it too much?
Yeah, I would go slow. I could probably put 1 more in there, but you got to do, it's silly to stand here and fry 1. So I would do those. I think that's about a good amount right there. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit to medium. About a medium. Because you want those to cook. You want them to brown on all four sides, but you want to cook the inside a little bit too. They're really going to finish up in your sauce, and that's what's going to cook them, is the sauce on the inside. But you want them to hold together while they're in the sauce. So you don't want to just slap them in there.
Yeah, that's actually oil starting to come up now a little bit.
Yeah, the oil.
And that's only been a minute or two, maybe 2 minutes or something.
The cast iron pan's really good because, like I said, you want to stand here and watch them because you don't want to burn them up. You just want them nice and brown, all four sides, and you can see how far up that oil goes. It needs to be up a little bit, you know, preferably halfway up, but that's a lot of oil. And I try not to waste too much of it, which you can recycle it, you know, use it again.
Working on the meatballs. It's only been a couple of minutes. And Mom was just talking about how perfect the sauce is bubbling.
You want just a nice, gentle simmer in there. Just a little bit of bubbling, not really popping out all over the stove. But you want it simmering.
And I started a 5-minute timer, and there's 3 minutes left, so you can see it's only been a couple of minutes since those have really been getting going.
Yeah, they're not ready yet. You kind of want to not play with them too much because that's when they start falling apart. But you do want to make sure that, you know, they're not sticking. So
they're not going to stick in that hand.
Yeah.
So it's been about 3 minutes, and Mom's got the spoon here.
And I think we're going to get ready to turn some of these here. And I have found the easiest way to do this without splashing all over is get your spoon up underneath there. See how that's nice and brown? You want to just, don't pat it down too much because you don't want to break them apart. That's why I didn't put so many in there, so that you have room to kind of roll that bad boy around. Perfect.
Technique.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, see, if you start squishing them down, then that's when they start falling apart. And that one really could have browned a little bit more, but it'll be okay because we can leave it in there a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I started a 5-minute timer, and there's still, so that's only been about 4 minutes right there since those have really started kind of, you know, the oil really started going.
Yeah.
So we'll check back on them.
We are about 7 minutes now, and I'm going to go ahead and start turning these because we've got the top, we've got the bottom. Now we're going to start browning them on the side. And with the side, you just kind of, it's kind of a, you have to prop them kind of, because they don't really want to stay up on their side very well. So you kind of just have to lean them up. There you go. And that's the other reason why I leave myself a little room in the pan to kind of maneuver them. See how we've got the top and the bottom? And now we're working on our sides. We'll give that about 5 minutes or so, maybe 3, 4, 5, just whatever. Be careful and not...
And so that's been, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 minutes or something like that, and that first side's brown now, or the first side of the side's brown.
Yeah, and actually this is probably going to do it, son.
Okay.
When we get this brown.
And we got those 2 more to do there. We're not going to show that, but that batch is going to go in the sauce. We'll show those going in, and that's probably been, like I said, it's been, I don't know, 12 minutes total of pan frying these big meatballs. And the heat on that is just kind of hovering right there. I mean, it's on. So that's about on a gas stove, about a 6.
6, yeah.
Yep. So, I
Which
mean,
is
there
about
is
a medium. It's about a medium temperature. You don't want them where they're, you know, popping out, burning you to death. You don't want that grease too done. I think this side may be a little bit.
A little hotter on one side?
Yeah, let's scoot it over.
Just turn it around. Just spin it around.
That's fine. I just wanted to scoot it over.
Alright, it's been about almost 15 minutes. When that hits 0, that timer is going to be 15 total minutes that those meatballs have been in there.
And they are looking pretty good. I think we have got
Well,
them.
just rolled them around a couple of times. Hasn't been much. They're just kind of hanging out doing their thing.
Yeah, and this one maybe needs a little bit more. And I think we can go ahead and start shifting them over to our sauce pot.
Okay, just get that one where you want, and then we'll come back and do those.
And all we're going to do here is just kind of take a slotted spoon, let it drain for a minute. I suppose you could put it on a paper towel, on a plate if you wanted to, but I just never have. Just gently drop it in, just like that.
That one looks good.
Yeah, or if you're really hungry, you have a meatball sandwich now.
Yes, they're not done yet,
For
are they?
lunch. They probably are done enough to eat. They're probably close enough if you cut one. We're not going to do that because we don't want to waste them. But you probably could eat it. There you go.
And that's
There's
our 15.
15-minute timer, which is just about perfect. Okay? There you go. All right, now that we've got those all incorporated into the sauce, you want to let that simmer nice and slow and low for about 4 hours. If your sauce starts getting a little thick, you can add a little water, or you can just let it simmer right on down. And this is all you want to do. Just incorporate them gently, gently. And they should be good to go. If they haven't fell apart by now, they should be good.
Yeah, that didn't look like any of those were falling apart. So those 3 pieces of bread and 2 eggs was perfect.
Right. So now we're going to just add our last 2. We're going to brown those just like we did the others. All 4 sides, about 15 minutes, and we're going to add that too. After 4 hours, they're all going to be done. 5 hours later, this is what we have. We just boiled up 1.5 pounds of spaghetti.
Oh, we both won, that's right.
Drained it good. And we are going to plate this up some. And this is our finished sauce. And that's what it needs to look like. Nice and thick. We're going to put that on the top. And then we're going to get a nice big meatball. Just like that. There you go. And if you watch this, we're going to cut it open. We're going to put it right here. And we are going to cut that open.
Over that way?
We get a knife there.
I know, I'm too old to do that.
And this is what that meatball is going to look like on the inside.
What?
Nice and
Yeah,
cooked.
game when we read stuff.
There you go. Nice and done.
You got a mat?
Still
Yeah,
moist,
I got a
too.
mat, and you got that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be great. But we just do that.
And now all you got to do is top that with some Parmesan cheese and you're good to go.